Thanks, folks. Amazing how many of you come out for a session on supervision, especially because it's a word with a very bad press. It's got all the overtones of being inspected, of scrutiny, of somebody looking over your shoulder, of somebody tripping you up, of quality control. Not exactly the most attractive stuff for ministers in today's church. And yet the biblical portrait of supervision is really quite different. It's about support. It's about releasing the potential that's in there. It's about making that gift that we've all received for ministry really come alive and thrive and bring out the colour of it, bring out the tone of it, bring out its potency, bring out its potential. That's really what we're about in supervision. Not the scrutiny stuff, but the support stuff. Each one of us came into this with a fire in the belly. Do you remember once upon a time when you first came into this? There was something you really wanted to give, something that really motivated you, something that really fired you up. And what supervision does is it says, that fire's still there. Sometimes it feels like it's flickering right down, dampened down. Sometimes the pressures of ministry push it right down. It feels like it's almost about to go out. And what supervision says is, do you want the fire up again? Do you want some support for that to blaze again? And it treats you as the expert, because you're the one that's working in that church or in that youth club or wherever it is you are. The supervisor simply says, what would it take for you to be fresh? What would it take for you to be alive in the moment? What would it be for you to really bring out the very thing that you wanted to do in that place? So it treats you as the expert, and it says, I'll come with you. I'll support you. I'll encourage you. I'll be there with you. And the model really comes, for me anyway, from Luke chapter 24. Remember Jesus on the road to Emmaus? Disciples are walking along. Jesus joins them. He doesn't say, oi, come over here to where I am. No, he joins them where they are. And he says, tell me what's on your hearts. Tell me what matters. Tell me why your faces are tripping you. Tell me about your disappointments. Tell me about your joys. And they tell the story. And when he's heard it, he says, let me tell you a bigger story. Let me tell you a story that makes sense of your wee story with my big story. And as you know in that story, there comes to the point in the end when their eyes are opened and their hearts are warmed and insight's been gained and something fresh is happening. And at that point, Jesus leaves them and they run back to the holy city, the place from which they've been running away as missionaries. They run back to the very thing that was tiring them, leaving them done and down and exhausted and worn out. And they run back with energy, with enthusiasm, wanting to face another day. And that's exactly the model of pastoral supervision. People come in with their stories. The story is accompanied. The story is helped to be framed within the context of a bigger story until the heart melts or the mind opens or something fresh arises and a person leaves willing to face another day back in the ministry field. So that's what we're about. That's what we're trying to promote. But you've been listening to me. Let's hear from somebody else, from my colleague Jane, who's been working in this area, both with people coming into ministry at the very beginning, but also with people well seasoned in the field. So welcome my colleague Jane.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here and thanks very much to Michael for that fantastic introduction to supervision. As Michael said, I've been involved in supervision for a number of years and as Michael also said, sometimes people don't understand or get the value of supervision. I suppose I come at it from two perspectives. One is having organised supervision for candidates in training for ministry for over 10 years. And for the last couple of years from the perspective of being a parish minister and therefore taking supervision, receiving supervision for myself and my own practice. And I can see the benefits therefore from both sides. Although supervision for candidates in training for ministry is slightly different from the kind of supervision that you would engage in as a parish minister, the overlaps are enormous, so it's not vastly different. The benefits of supervision are enormous. To me, it's a safe space. It's a place where you can go to rage, to cry, to laugh, to rejoice, to question, to doubt, where you know that you're going to be taken seriously, you're not going to be judged, and it's confidential, so nothing that you say in that space is taken out and taken anywhere else. It is your time, and time for you to explore the issues and the things that really matter to you in ministry. And a time too for you to explore some of the things that are maybe troubling you in ministry. We all have points where we come up against situations and you think, why did I say that? Or how on earth did that happen? Or how on earth am I going to get myself out of this? And you just think, I need to take this somewhere. Supervision is the place to take it. The benefits are that it is supportive. It is completely supportive. It is about enabling you to flourish in ministry, to be the best that you can be. I think of it as being a bit like a mirror, which reflects back to you the situation that you're facing, but then helps you to see it from a different perspective, and so gives you a new insight, a new angle, and hopefully leads you into a new way of operating, a new way of being, potentially a new solution to whatever it is that you're facing. It's very much a place where the supervisor asks the questions that you might actually be trying to avoid. So it can be hard work, but as I've said, it's hugely beneficial, and I really highly recommend it. It also doesn't matter what stage of ministry you're at. I've mentioned the fact that most of the supervision that I've been involved in has been candidates in training for ministry. But really, whether you're in candidate in training, whether you are in your first few years of ministry, whether you're in the middle of what seems like a lifelong ministry, or whether you're towards the end of your ministry, supervision can be of value because, as Michael says, it starts with you, where you are, with your concerns, your issues, your problems, your joys, your frustrations, and everything that your ministry means to you. So whatever stage you're at, you can bring that into the supervision space and find space there to explore it and develop it and receive support and enable you to flourish. I have, as I said, been involved in supervision for about 12 years now, but Jenny, my colleague, who's also parish minister, has been involved with supervision for much longer than I have. So we've asked Jenny to come along and share some of her experiences and her perspectives on the whole area of supervision. Thank you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm really just here to talk about my experience of supervision, which I've had for over 20 years now. And I think probably the main word that would describe what I experience as is it's a kind of space. I think what's important about that is that it's a space that isn't just in the 1 hour a month, interestingly. So it's a space that when I go for 1 hour a month, it feels spacious. It feels like things slow down. It feels like I have a chance to look at something in an area where I'm feeling some support. And it allows a sense of having had time to enable something new to happen. And one of the interesting things is that sense of space travels with me. It's not just in the hour a month. So very often if something tricky arises, I kind of remember it and park it, which means I know I have a space for it later on. There are some months when I go for supervision when actually I haven't really thought very much about what it is I want to speak about. And I usually just find even in the bus going and travelling there, something comes to the surface. So space and the feeling of space is very much part of how I would describe what supervision is, which in busy ministry is a kind of feels quite precious. And there's something about that enables things to happen that don't normally happen. And one of the other interesting things about which gives me part of the sense of space is I actually feel respected. I feel my work's respected and that I'm being taken seriously. I can remember actually when I started going for supervision, and I had that sense of a bit of feeling like I needed to report to kind of check that my work was good enough. And I think nowadays it feels something very different. Though I think that when I was starting, there was something really important about being able to speak something over and get some confirmation of the things that I was doing that were a good practice. So I think that in early stages of ministry, there's something very much there about helping to form people in ministry and to build confidence. And part of what I would like to say is that it feels to me that supervision is a creative process. I feel like I bring something that's been bothering me, something where I have a sense there's something under the surface I haven't quite fathomed. And I tell the story, a little bit of practicality of saying this is what happened, this is what such and such said, maybe this is what I said or I didn't say, this is what I've been pondering about it. And someone reflects something to me. It feels like I put it out. We have a kind of space in between us. I bring something and I get some reflection. So that sense of mirror is often very helpful, but it also feels a bit to me like a process, a bit more like a chemical process where there's a kind of catalyst and you're trying to look for what is it that makes something happen here? What is it that might allow something to come together and kind of jigsaw together in a way that there's a different perspective? So there's something for me about this, about keeping a kind of commitment to creative ministry and stopping that kind of railway track kind of sense that often I feel part of. So for me, there is something there that feels like I can trust this process. And it does have a quality of almost, I would say, holy space. A space where very often that kind of catalytic stuff feels like what I would call a Holy Spirit moment. Aha, yeah, I see now. Very often realizing what it was that was bothering me. And it does have a sense of, the other thing that I really like about it is I nearly always end up feeling actually I have more resources inside me than I realized I did. I feel confirmed. And in that sense, it feels very vocational to me. It feels like my sense of being a minister and my sense of call is affirmed and confirmed. So for me, it's a very practical discipline. And it's a discipline, as I say, even when I don't think I've got anything to say, there's always something that comes out of it. So it feels in the heritage also of that kind of spiritual commitment to discipline. I think one of the other things I would want other folk to know is that you don't only have the choice of doing it individually. And more recently, I've been involved in small groups of supervision, and that's been interesting, very interesting, because you get other people's perspective. You find that in somebody else's story, there's something that's just like your own, or sometimes it's different from your own, and that also means you can learn from it. So this pastoral supervision process can be done individually, it can be done as a group. It's always important to reinforce that it's confidential and also that it is part of good stewardship. It's good for us to account for what we're doing and to feel a confirmation of being held and boundaried and supported to keep walking the walk. So do look at the website, see what resources are available, and I would very much encourage people to give this a try. Thank you.